Michael with United Veterans Worldwide. Excited today to meet with my new friend Andrew. Andrew and I came in contact with each other via social media recently. He started an account, started publishing some incredible fitness videos with himself and his family, super motivating, and he started to talk about some of his personal challenges and helping people to overcome that. And so I really want this global audience to meet Andrew. So Andrew, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. All right. Well, thank you for having me on your channel, Michael. I look forward to our conversation. So again, my name is Andrew Sinclair. I'm 42 years old and just retired from the Coast Guard, actually last year, so May 2024, so fairly recently. I'm married to my high school sweetheart. This year we will celebrate our 20-year anniversary, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I have 3 children. I have a son who's 15, a daughter who's 12, another daughter who's 9, 2 dogs, and a cat. And since we retired May of last year, we are full-time living in a fifth wheel RV. So kind of a unique situation, yeah. So I tell people that, and they're like, "What is going on?" But we've been doing that, so it's been amazing so far. We've traveled all up to Maine and back. I retired out of Miami, Florida. We've been up the East Coast. We're back in Florida now. We intend to do this for probably a couple more years, and we're just having fun seeing the country. We homeschool our kids, and it just makes sense for us. So just living off the pension and kind of seeing where life takes us right now. A little bit of my further background. I grew up Army bred. So my father was Army, West Point grad, lived all around the country growing up with him, Germany as well. And then realized I didn't want to join the Army because he was gone so much.
Yeah.
But I like the military aspect of obviously. And then I saw the Coast Guard. I'm like, wow, I always liked water. And so I joined the Coast Guard when I was 22, and I did 20 years in the Coast Guard. And the first 9 years of my career was on the enlisted side as we call them aviation survival technicians, but the public knows them better as helicopter rescue swimmers. So the guys that like jump out of the helicopters. So I did that for 9 years, and it's absolutely fabulous job. I love the job. Like, to me, it's the best job you could ever do in the military. It's amazing. Very small, tight-knit community. The only downside I would say to that job was it's very hard to advance, just because there's only like 300 of us, and for us to advance, one person has to kind of move up out of the way that's higher ranked than you. So I went to officer candidate school. So 9 years enlisted, and then the last 11 were on the officer side. So I did search and rescue planning as an officer, pollution response, a little bit of law enforcement, and then a little bit of planning. And then again, I just retired last year, and now I am, I think now I'm trying to figure out who I really am. Now that I'm retired, yes. And, initially I was like, oh, I'm going to do it a lot. I've seen a lot of folks retire throughout my career, and they retire on a Friday and they go get a GS job on a Monday, and work, which nothing wrong with that. But I was like, I wasn't ready for that. And I was like, I need a decompression period. And I'm kind of doing that now, so it feels good. I feel like I have zero stress. It's absolutely amazing. And will I go back to work? I don't know. Right now, I'm just having fun. The kids are having fun. The wife's having fun. So we are on this adventure.
Yeah, I love that. I wish that I had taken more time, because I was one of those guys who retired. I medically retired at 17 and a half years. One day was Army. The next day was fulfillment at Amazon. And I had a mission in the Army where I was doing humanitarian work, and the next day I was like worried about people getting their crap they're going to throw away in less than 6 months. And I was like, what am I freaking doing? Where are my values? Where's my purpose?
That was my whole issue. I was like, and I talked to some of my fellow swimmer buddies who had retired, a couple years before me, and they're like, hey, don't get a job for 6 months to a year. Just chill out. Just take a chill time, take a chill period. So I was like, let me do that. Because I initially applied for some GS 13, 14 jobs back in Alaska where I have a house. I'm like, I did the whole resume, even got a call back on a few to set up an interview. And I ended up getting cold feet just because in the back of my head, I was like, I got to take some time off and just really kind of figure out who I am. And I'm so glad I did, because I was stressed out, especially the last 2 years of my career, being in Miami, and it's just very, very high stress. Miami's like the busiest sector for the Coast Guard in the entire country, with all the missions going on there. So it's just very high stress, on call 24/7, very consequential decisions I had to make all the time. It just was weighing on me, and I was like, I was so burnt out. So for me to hop into another job right away was just, I'm glad I didn't do it. I'm glad I just took the time off, and I'm still taking that time off.
Yeah. Well, our careers kind of parallel each other. I did 7 years enlisted as a corpsman with the Navy and with the Marines, and so I got that combat medic side down. And then I was going to go to law school, and I ended up crossing over into OCS and taking a platoon into Iraq as an officer, and then jumped into the special operations side and did civil affairs the rest of the time until I was wounded and medically retired for this shoulder right here.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I've had 4 surgeries right here. Just to list one 4 right there. Yep.
Shoulders are the most complex joint in the entire body, and they just do not heal well.
Absolutely. And you don't realize how much it impacts the rest of your body, because the shoulders, if your shoulder's hurting here, you'll have, imbalances on the rest of your body going down to your legs, which I have. So I definitely know about that, and yes, totally agree.
Yeah, I had to have the full thing replaced after 3 surgeries. It just wasn't doing it, and my shoulder just kept deteriorating further and further. So I don't have any muscle in here. They took all of that out. They took all of it back here, and they said, you'll never exercise like that again. You'll never lift weights. You'll never do that. And I said, I don't think you know who I am. Like, I'm going to get it. And I built up the strength and all the other areas around it so that now this piece of metal and plastic can do everything I used to do. I can get up and do a pull-up. Physical therapist said, you'll never do pull-ups the rest of your life. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I know the body's able to regenerate and heal. And movement is medicine. And so I'm going to keep moving. Yeah.
Totally agree. Hold on. I think where's it at? There it goes. Up.
Yeah, I saw you the whole time, so.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
On my side, it went out. Funny you say that, though, because I've had 4 right here on the left shoulder, and they wanted to replace it on the 5th one, and I was like, I got cold feet because I heard if I replaced it that I had to get it replaced every 10 to 12 years. I don't know if that's okay. So you know that, and I was like, I'm just gonna hold off. But the doc gave me the same, discussion. He's like, you have to change, because I love working out. It's like, that's just my passion.
It's good for you.
He's like, you can't work out. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, you can't tell me I can't work out, because that's gonna mess me up here. I don't care about the physical body. Like I do it for this. Like majority, the physical body is just secondary, which is good, but I do it for this. So I have changed my workouts drastically. I don't lift as heavy. As long as I get blood into that muscle here,
yeah.
What I always tell myself, and that's what I aim for, to maintain mobility, range of motion, and to get blood in the muscle.
And are you able to sleep, or is there severe arthritis with all of that right there?
Well, it's 90% arthritic, and I drive my wife nuts, because what I do is I sleep with my arm up like this, and I basically pivot all night on this arm, which is not good, but I can't. I know the doc said sleep on your back, and I was like, I've even strapped my arm to my body with like a belt and try to sleep, and I wake up in the middle of the night, rip it off. I do this all night, and it's just.
Brother, I have been in that fight way too long. I held off after I retired medically, I held off for 5 years. And it got to the point where I could not sleep. It was just hurting all the time, no matter what position I was in. And I tried a bunch of funky things to try to make it right. Yeah. It just kept deteriorating, no matter what I was doing physically, to try to help it. And I did a lot of work on it for a long time. It was eventually that replacement. And they told me something similar, like, hey, 7 to 10 years, you'll have to have it replaced again, and then you will lose probably 60% of that mobility in that right arm. That was a hard message for me, but I also knew I wasn't sleeping, so my mental health was I was spinning. And I was like, I've got to sleep, I've got to recover. And now I've gone back in, and I had this replaced in 2019. So I went back in and had another MRI again, and to look at this and see what was going on, to see if I'm hurting it with what I'm doing fitness wise. And they're like, that thing looks brand new. And I said,
oh, that's good.
I said, yeah.
Okay, that's good to hear then.
So it means that all the stuff that I'm doing to help strengthen all of this area around here is forming a protective shield around that metal and that plastic, so it's not putting all that strain. Now, what I'm not doing anymore is I'm not doing 400-pound deadlifts.
Exactly.
I'm not doing overhead 75-pound dumbbells anymore. I'm doing 40 to 50 pound dumbbells. You know, so I'm dropping the weight, I'm increasing the mobility, and I can't tell you what a difference it's made. And you know, I'll be that walking model going forward that says shoulder replacement doesn't mean an end of your passions, your outlet for mental health. It's just one more step.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I tell people all the time, I'm like, I just modify. Like, work with what God gave you. You know, everybody's got issues going on. We all have issues. Like, everybody's got something going on. So if you just look for any excuse to not train or do something, you can find it, right? So I'm always like, yeah, my shoulder hurts, but I've learned to work around it and modify it by not lifting as heavy, right? We're naturally getting older anyways.
Yeah.
We're not what we were in our 20s and 30s, you know? So it's like, and I have kids. I don't need to be the craziest, biggest guy anymore. It's like, I just want to be healthy, and I want range of motion in there, and I just want to try to mitigate any pain that I can, you know?
Yeah, and there are things that I see you do on your Instagram channel that I'm like, you know what, I need to implement some more of that range of motion exercises that Andrew's doing, because I think it will give me greater flexibility and longevity in what I'm doing for exercise. So I love what you're doing. It's a great example. Talk to me about this adventure you're taking right now, and then I'm going to take you back in time a little bit. But talk about this choice to go on the road and travel with your family. What's that like for your kids and school and education and things?
Well, all right, so it's been amazing. We've been in the RV, May, so almost just shy of a year. But we've been homeschooling for 7.5 years, because I was stationed in Alaska from 2018 to 2022. And we were in Key West initially, and I got orders to go to Alaska. I remember driving up to Alaska, you know, we're doing the PCS, and I'm driving up with the wife and the kids, and she's like, well, I want to try homeschool. I'm like, homeschool kids are weird. You know, that's the stigma that I had when I was growing up, right? They're always smart, but maybe like a little socially awkward. Yeah. And I'm like, honey, I don't want to do it. And she's like, well, let's just try it. I'm like, I said, all right, let's do 1 year, and if it works, we'll stick with it. If it doesn't, we'll, you know, put them right back in the school system. And we did 1 year up there, and it was amazing. And Alaska is very homeschool friendly, so it was a good way to introduce you know, us into it. And it's not what it was at least when I was coming up. So there's obviously still a stigma that goes with it, but I mean, watching what our kids are doing now, how social they are, how smart they are, respectful, well-mannered kids, like, to me, it's absolutely amazing. So the homeschool thing is sticking for us. So once I came up, you know, to 20 years, you know, the choice to retire when I was in Miami, you know, I could have continued and try to go for the next rank, or, you know, it is when you get time to retire, you get that decision. Yep. And I was, we could get the pension, you know, disability, and we're homeschooling the kids already. So let's try to do just one time where we still have the kids at a good age, and we can do this one adventure right now. If we don't do it now, we'll never have the chance to do it again. Yep. You know, so we looked at each other and we're like, let's try it. You know, we get 18 summers with each kid. My son is 15. He'll be 16 September. And I'm telling you what, the social aspect of being in the RV community is awesome. Like right now, I'm looking out the window, my kids are running around with like 4 other kids in the neighborhood here, you know, and they're playing. You know, that's the way I grew up. I grew up being outside 24/7, running around with my, you know, bare feet, playing on the playground, and they're having a blast, you know. And it has its ups and downs, but just like living in a house, everything has pros and cons, you know. So what we've experienced so far has been phenomenal. Like we don't even know where we're going to settle down yet. We're just having so much fun traveling. So far we're going to keep going. I would say maybe in a year, 2 years, I don't know. But right now, I guess when it stops being fun, you know? Yeah. Well, if you ever get out to Utah, I mean, we've got a lot of national parks out here that would be perfect for you guys to enjoy some time, and let me know. We'll connect up in person. That'd be awesome. I will take you up on that, because we're actually, May, we start our trip out kind of west. Yeah. And we're going to head up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and then kind of go straight west across the northern part of the United States through Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, Montana, then down to Washington, Oregon, California. And then we'll start going back across to the East Coast, and that's when we're going to hit Utah, which will probably be, I think, spring, summer-ish of 2026. Okay. So, Yeah, if you're still around there, because Utah, I've driven through Utah many times, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, and I live in northern Utah, a place that's completely surrounded by mountains. So I'm looking out my office window right now, and all I see are mountains, snow-caked mountains. And if I went outside, it would be 360. It's just like a little slice of heaven. And
That's
it's
the best.
a very odd winter for us here. Like we don't have any snow on the ground, and I think yesterday it was 60 degrees outside, which is just not normal for this season for us. Yeah, it's been raining like crazy, so we need the moisture, but it's not cold, which is weird. So
Well, it's been colder in Florida than it typically is for the winter, and we still have a house in Juneau, Alaska, so we talk to our friends and neighbors up there, and they've had a relatively mild or warmer winter up there. So it's, I guess, like the whole country's kind of like
flip-flopping.
Growing up. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So that makes sense.
I was born in Soldotna on the Kenai Peninsula. Yep. Yeah. But I haven't ever been back up. So I like to watch a lot of YouTube videos that talk about Alaska fishing and wildlife, and I've never made it back, but
we love Alaska. We still have our house. We're renting to a Coast Guard guy right now, and we're not closing the door in Alaska, but it's a beautiful place. We did 4 years up there, and life-changing experiences up there, and I actually got into running up there, believe it or not. But
really?
Yeah, I actually hated running, to be honest with you. Before, well, what happened was I was up there during COVID, and they shut down all the gyms. So I did running when I went to rescue summer school, but I didn't enjoy it. Yeah. So I could do things, but I wasn't like, I always enjoyed lifting weights, but running, I was like, no way. Mm-hmm. And then they shut down the gyms, and I'm like, I have to do something to get this energy out, because I love just training. And I started running the mountains, and I fell in love with running, and that was 2020. Summer 2020 is when I started doing it, and I literally run every day since. I've done races, marathons, mountain races. I've done relays. I've done all kinds of stuff. It's like therapeutic for me.
And your knees are supportive?
I am so fortunate. My left knee gives me a little bit of twinging every once in a while, and then I was kind of like I'll never take days off, but I'll just maybe do a slower run. Like this morning, I did a 3-mile run with my wife, and it was maybe 8.5-minute pace. But if I'm by myself, I can take it to 7-minute pace and like try to go fast. So I was like, I'm just gonna ease off. But I still, even on my days off, I call them active recovery. Like I don't ever rest. I guess
Good for you.
I still move.
Good for you.
I'll just throttle back a little bit, but I don't ever like just take a day off. I don't know. Again, it helps if up here.
100%. Yeah, a couple of years ago, I got this hero bug and decided to get back into jiu-jitsu at 45 years old. And I ended up fighting these two 20-year-old kids back to back. And I was like, I'm not going to let them win. And sure enough, I won. But I walked out of there limping, and I tore the meniscus in my right knee in that fight. And so I was like, I guess jiu-jitsu's done. And so now all I do right now is just try to strengthen those muscles around that knee so that I have more. But I don't want a freaking surgery. Like this is my last. I don't want any more. It takes too long to rebuild, to restructure again.
I'm done with surgeries as well. I agree. I'm just going to work with what I have here, and if something happens, I'll modify and kind of work around it and do whatever stretches and stuff like that. But I agree. I'm done with surgery. Yeah.
Well, you're a unique guest on this channel because I don't think that I've had anybody Coast Guard. I came close at one point, and that didn't work. So you're my first Coast Guard enlisted and officer combination on the channel. So maybe if we walk back in time a little bit and we walk through your military time frame, what are the highlights, a couple of highlights, and what are the lows that you experienced while in as a Coast Guard? Yeah.
Gosh, it is. Well, I would say, all right, the higher rank I got, the harder it got.
Yeah.
At least mentally for me, I guess that kind of comes with the territory. But again, I started off enlisted, went to rescue swimmer school. Extremely difficult. A lot of people don't really know about the Coast Guard. They assume, we always hear the jokes like puddle jumpers, and I love it though because my brother-in-law's in the Navy and my brother's in the Army, and so it's like I love it though. But so you got to be able to have a light skin and be able to take it.
Yeah.
To me, it's fun. But so to me, when I tell people kind of what we do, especially on the rescue swimmer side, like people don't realize that the attrition rate is 75%. We train with PJs from the Air Force. Since I left, I know we do some joint training with the SEALs. I have trained when I was stationed in Key West. I trained with the SF guys, the dive school. So it's really cool. Like, people don't realize that we have kind of, I don't want to say we're like elite, but we have the small group of people in the Coast Guard that are like, you have to be extremely physically fit to do our job.
Yeah, I knew that for a fact. I as a corpsman, I ended up treating some Coast Guard guys who were in training for rescue swimmer operations out of South Carolina. Okay. And those dudes were stout dudes. And I was like, what are you? You're some elite unit somewhere. And they're like, we're rescue swimmer. I was like, holy smokes. Like, peak physical fitness, courage, the whole deal, the whole package.
Yeah. I love it because people just don't know. Again, they don't go like, Coast Guard. Why do you train like that? I'm like, well, here's the requirements, what you got to do, and again, at the school is extremely difficult. I don't ever want to go to again. Like, but once you make it through the school and you get to your first air station as a swimmer, it's the camaraderie second to none. So for me, that was like the highlight. Being a rescue swimmer for me in my career. The camaraderie that you have, the brotherhood. There's roughly 330 of us right now, like, that are active duty, and of total rescue swimmers ever, it's right around 1,200 right now. So the whole program started in 1984. So again, it's still very small. And we still meet up. Like, we have a Facebook page, and we'll do we did a Coast Guard reunion or a rescue swimmer reunion last July. So you can meet some of the old timers and stuff. It's just a very tight knit community. It's awesome. So for me, that's like the highlight. And then you do a real tangible job in the Coast Guard that's so rewarding. Like, you see it, like when you jump in the water, you pull something out of the water, like, it's instant gratification, instantly rewarding, so fulfilling. Like, when you go back to your unit, everybody's asking questions about it. You might get a medal, an award. I've been interviewed. I've been on news channels. I got a case that was on YouTube, still on YouTube.
You should share it with me. Thing. I want to see it. Yeah,
I can do it. Yeah. Saved 9 people and 2 dogs right before hurricane came. Yeah, it's on YouTube. So that to me was fun because I'm like an adrenaline junkie, like, kind of dope. That's how I am. I'm a dopamaniac. I know so for me, that job was like, it's like the alarm would go off at 2 in the morning. I'm like, yes, like, let's go. And some of the pilots and the flight mech, I'm like, I'm tired. I'm like, let's freaking go. Like, let's, I was always like ready to go because I'm like, every case is different. Yeah. So for me, that was like the highlight of my career. But again, I went a different route because after 9 years, because I could not advance. The way we advance in the Coast Guard is similar to the Navy, service-wide. So I would write number 1 in the service-wide, and they would still make 0. And I'm like, this is crazy. So, but again, that was the best part of my career. And then I finally went officer after finishing my degree online. And the officer was so rewarding as well, but I would actually say it was more challenging for me up here, just because I can do physical stuff all day. That's what I like doing. That's my, like, you tell me to go run and do put, I'm like, let's go. That's like I come alive inside when I'm doing that. And then I went officer world and was like, develop this PowerPoint, give this brief on this. And I'm like, sir, I don't know anything about that. They're like, I don't care, figure it out. And you're like, exactly, but you still have to deliver. So I guess I needed that though for professional development. It was good, but extremely challenging. And then I retired as an 04 lieutenant commander. Yeah. And the last 2 years in Miami, again, extremely busy. And I was a search and rescue mission coordinator. So we call them SMC. So in that role, if you're on duty, so I would stay on duty probably 5 days a month. There was about 5 of us down there, and we kind of do a rotation. So I'll do 5 or 6 days a month. But when you're on that duty, you're on call 24/7. So any search and rescue case that happens within our area of responsibility for Sector Miami, they would have to call me. So usually our command center, we have folks there that are at work 24/7, 365. They would get the initial call. They would develop a plan saying, hey, this person's in the water 10 miles offshore. We'll launch a small boat, use a helo with a rescue swimmer.
What's that time frame look like?
Well, it happens very quick.
Yeah.
So, and depending on what the case is. So if you have somebody in the water, every case is urgent, but like some are more urgent than others. So they would develop we call it a plan, search and rescue plan, and they would call me as the SMC, and I had to listen to it. And these cases happen at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. So I'll get a call and you get woken up and you're like, sir, we have a case. So you have to take the brief, and then you have to make the final decision of, are they going to execute this case this way? So a lot of responsibility falls on you. And then when you have people that die, you have to do what's called the next of kin briefs, which happens all the time, especially in Miami. So I had to do this. You have to dress up in our service dress Bravos, like our uniform with medals and stuff. And then, I'm sure you've seen it, go to the person's house and you give a brief and, to mourning family members. And it was just very heavy, high responsibility, high consequence job. And it takes years to get in that position. You have to have, so I already had 18 years before I even got to Miami, but I had my enlisted time as a swimmer. So I had worked my way through through the ranks, and I had the judgment. And you take a qualification board and you finally earn that qual, but it takes a lot out of you. And I would never, even when I get home, I was just never, my mind was never, off work. My wife would always say, like, you're here, but you're not here.
Yep.
Like you're like, I'm sitting in front of the dinner table with the kids,
Yep.
but here's not here. I was never present, if that makes sense.
Yeah, one thing I was going to mention is you said that you could be at a steady state sleep and a call would come in and you have to turn on immediately and get active.
Right away.
And it's the same in a combat environment where we finally get to rest on our rack and then a mortar comes in, or we hear a gunshot and we have to react immediately to that enemy. And the fight or flight within our system gets broken over time.
Yep.
Because there's too many of those rest, fight. And eventually the body's like, dude, you just need to be ready to fight at all times. And I imagine in your case, that's what eventually starts to happen is that fight never turns off, and you come home, and it's the same thing a first responder has to deal with. And I've learned that through some of the interviews I've had with these guys. But they'll have all these traumatic events in a shift, and they'll come home, and the wife's like, "Hey, I'm so exhausted. Can you cook dinner?" And you're just like, "Nah, I freaking want to make dinner."
Short fuse. Yeah, that was me. Because. I was actually reading a study the last 6 months I was in service, and they did a study and they compared folks who do SMC, the qual that I was telling you about, and they compared them to combat veterans.
Yep.
And what you exactly said is what the study said. So when that happens, it triggers your fight or flight. And so it said these SMCs, which sounds weird, right? You're a Coast Guard, you're just at home, you're not in a war zone. I can't imagine that. But it triggers to the body the same way. And all these guys who do SMC, and I'm one of them, I got diagnosed with PTSD.
Yep.
I got diagnosed with all these things. So they said the symptoms from these guys or guys and gals that do SMC mirror and parallel what combat veterans. And I was like, are you serious? Because my brother has done 2 tours in Iraq, Afghanistan. I'm like, geez.
I believe it.
Yeah. I don't have combat experience, but I will tell you that job was very demanding for me. And again, that was one of the reasons I knew. I was like, I got to 20. I'm like, it's time, to pull the plug and retire and be a little more present with my family. And that's kind of, that's where I'm at now. And I made the right decision.
Yeah, brother. Yeah. And on this channel, we don't do a lot of comparisons, and I don't allow that to happen, because I've interviewed a call taker in Canada for the Canadian police or fire, and she got PTSD from having some of these calls where she never got to see the conclusion. She just heard people in their most distressed, worst case scenario, help them through, police get on or fire gets on station, and she's off, and she's like, there's no time to really process because the phone rings again for something different. And she was apologetic, and I just said, stop, like, trauma is trauma, and we all experience it in our own way from different events. And I totally believe that your scenario is very similar, and the body's reaction to that, sympathetic nervous system's reaction to those things is the same. And so when we talk healing after that fact, you've been out for a year.
Just under a year. Yep.
So my journey, I retired medically in 2015 and held a job, got another job, a promotion, got into a pretty senior position. And so 3 years? 2.5 years down the line, a tsunami of emotional and mental trauma hit me harder than I would have ever seen coming. If you'd asked me a year out if I had PTSD, I would have told you there's no way. I'm happy, I'm grounded in my faith, I love my family, I've got a supportive wife, like everything is, I've got a great job, I'm getting a lot of money. no, what was coming next was so much harder. And that experience enables me to really talk with other people who have seen that dark hallway, and it's such a hard concept to explain to people, that someone who felt so good could eventually end up at the bottom and have to claw their way back up to a place of health. So I hope for you, brother, that, and what I see on your channel, you're doing a lot of the good things. And and you're in a place where you can get vitamin D from the sun, and you're working out outside, right? Like, you're doing the stuff that is necessary to build the foundation for resilience against whatever tsunami comes your way in terms of challenges, mentally or physically. And I hope that for you.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. I tell people all the time, and even when I was stationed in Alaska, the 4 years I was up there, I went up there and I heard people telling you, hey, you're going to get they call it seasonal depression.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not real. I'm like, that can't be. And I got up there, right? And guess what? I was after 6 months working there, I started seeing people at their desks with like these happy lamps, and that would let off the UV to simulate the sun, get the vitamin D. Because it is, dark for 6 months of the year, a lot longer, and dreary and kind of wet and cold, right? So it's easy to fall into depression, and people get it. So I saw it firsthand, but I would talk to people. I'm like, guys, let's get out and go for a hike. I'm like, we can. I'm like, you can. Get some rain gear and let's go. Like, I was running all winter. I remember snowplows. I got thrown into a bank one time because I was running the side of the road. Probably not the smartest, but I like extreme stuff. But I'm like running in the snow in the blizzard. And to me, so I never got that. But I'll tell you what, if I can't work, my wife, if she was here, she'd tell you, if I don't work out in the morning, like, she's like, go work out. Because I guess moody or temperamental. Like, I have to. For me, the way I'm wired, being ADHD, like, I wake up, I drink my coffee, I kind of go over some notes and stuff on my phone and things like that, and then after I'm going to work out. Yeah. Like, I have to do it. Yeah, so it's a non-negotiable for me. Yep. That's one thing that's been constant for me is I have figured that out about myself. Everything else I'm still trying to figure out, but I know I need to work out for sure. Yeah, and I think there are more people like us than we know, especially coming out of a high tempo field in the military where we were expected to be at a peak level. Fitness is always what I do. My alarm is constantly set for anywhere between 5 and 5:30 to wake up and hit my gym. And sometimes in my garage gym it gets 30 degrees in the winter, and I'm like, I don't want to touch anything metal. So then I go to Planet Fitness and I get what I can get out of Planet Fitness. But I love working out in my own gym. But I love that fact that you've developed that habit and you continue to employ that. And so you're in great shape for being 40. What do you say? 44? 42. I'll be 43 in April.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does your nutrition look like? Talk to me about how you keep your health. Because if you ate crap, you wouldn't look like the way you do.
That's true. So, it's crazy. So I don't really eat vegetables. I know this is kind of controversial. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, you're unhealthy, this, that. But I'll eat potatoes every once in a while and corn, but I don't touch greens. I don't touch like leafy greens. I have my own reasons for that. But if you read like the FDA's, the food pyramid says you got to have a certain amount of grains, this, that. So I focus every meal around protein. So I weigh to about 205, 210 is what I fluctuate my weight right now. Yeah, I'm the same. So I want to get roughly at minimum 200 grams of protein a day. Yeah. Usually 1 to 1.5, per pound. That's what I aim for. So every meal I eat is based around protein. And then I'll get some carbs, and obviously the fats come with it because I eat a lot of meat. It's like this morning I had, 50 grams of protein, 5 grams of creatine, and a bagel post-workout. Then I just had literally a pound of ground beef. Tonight I'll have probably a pound of chicken and a little bit of rice. And that'll be my meals for today. So what do you think your carb intake is? Right now, I would say it's lower than a typical person who does like the stuff I do. But I've never liked vegetables, even when I was little. I've even talked to my mom about this. So I've never really lined up. So I don't really eat high. I would say, let's see, a cup of rice is probably 50. So bagel is probably 40. So I'm probably around 100 grams of carbs a day, which is kind of low. And what about your fats then? Because you have to have your energy source from something. Yep, so I would say more from fats. Okay. So when I eat the meats, like I eat chicken thighs, so I eat fattier meats, like ribeyes, stuff like that, ground beef. And I've done keto, so I've experimented with keto. I've done carnivore. So now I'm not as strict with it.
Yeah.
Or I just do like the 80-20 rule. So 80% kind of locked on with the diet, 20% I'll, because I have, again, 3 kids in an RV, and we, we'll go out and I'll get a pizza. Maybe I'll have like 1 slice because I, get the carbs from the dough, the bread. But as long as I'm getting the protein and I'm still working out consistently, I've been able to kind of maintain my physique. But I will say, the past 3 months, my physique has gotten in pretty good shape. I'm not trying to brag, but like from reference to what I've been.
Yeah.
And I will say the big reason is let's see, the last time I had alcohol was New Year's Eve. And I say this because I was a heavy drinker for roughly 12 years. The last 12 years of my career, I would drink 1 to 2 glasses of bourbon a night. And that was every single night. And then on weekends, I could polish a bottle off in 2 days, a fifth, which is not good. So I had high tolerance. And I told myself 2025, I was like, I'm trying something new.
Good for
you. I got to, because my dad's deceased. He actually was an alcoholic, and that's why he passed away. So it runs in the family. And I found myself just coping when I was in the Coast Guard, especially in Miami, very stressed out. I remember I would race home from work through traffic. Fight or flight's triggered from 2 hours of traffic. It's insane down there. If you've ever been to Miami.
I have, yeah.
Okay, so I would drive down to South Beach every day, go to work, drive home, pour a glass right away. Every day. And that's 1 to 2 minimum a night, and sometimes more. And it just wasn't good. And it was basically just helping me cope.
Yep.
And I recognize it now. So now, which is, when you're doing it, it feels great, but it just digs you in a deeper hole. And for me, now that I've removed it from my diet, I don't even touch alcohol, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my skin is getting thinner. Like, I feel like I'm getting more cut. I'm like, dang it, I should have been doing this years ago. Because I like looking good and feeling good and working out, right?
Yeah.
Alcohol was suppressing, all that. I'm like, dang it, I've been doing all this research, and it's very estrogenic, and which is not good for a guy. And I'm like, dang, I've been doing all this stuff I was working out in the gym and running so much, but I was also drinking so much, which is slowing my game, what I was trying to do in my fitness world. I'm like, I think I'm done with it. I told the wife, and I don't tell many people, so I've told my older brother, but
now the world will hear.
I know. But if I could help, because I know there's a lot of people in my shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Who, especially in the military, who it's kind of in our culture in the military. Let's go drink and, go out and stay out late and then go to work next day and we just do it all over again. It's just like, it wears on you. Yeah. And it was exhausting, and my cortisol was through the roof. Like, everything was just very stressed out. I'm like, now that I'm not stressed out, I'm like, it's easy for me to not even, I don't even have the urge for it. Yeah. And I'm like, this is kind of weird. I know, because I was that guy. That was the first guy to the party and the last to leave. You can ask people. My nickname in the swimmer world was like steak and whiskey. Not that that's good, but so I was that guy. Like, oh, Drew's got to be there. He's fun, and I was fun. But it's like I can have. So now I'm hanging with people in the RV park, and they're drinking, and I'm not. But I'm right there having fun. And what I do is I drink these now.
Yep.
Just to look right, and it tricks I feel like I trick my mind thinking like this is like some type of beer or alcohol. Yeah. And it's great. Yeah, my wife's very happy because she's, obviously drinking is just not good anyways, so. And
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think a lot of people will resonate with that as a coping mechanism. For me, religiously, I never consumed alcohol.
Good for you.
But instead, I would also suggest that your lifestyle that you're living right now is conducive to increasing your health and keeping your cortisol down, living a life less stressful, right? So brother, there may be a time in the future where you decide to go back to work in some capacity, and then increases the stress. And I hope that you will maintain that same commitment to not choosing that negative coping mechanism, because most of the guys that I've known who've taken their own lives, who are buddies of mine, they always put alcohol in the picture, and it just spun them faster down that dark hallway. So
that's my dad. My dad was a West Point grad, colonel in the Army, highly successful, smart, and the bottle overruled him, and he lost his wife and his 4 kids. And so I experienced that firsthand, growing up in a household that was very unstable with that. And I always knew that, so I didn't even start drinking until I was 21. So I waited. Most people start at 18 or whatever and kind of sneak it. I was like, I'm not going to touch it. So I tried when I was 21. Didn't even like it, but then I joined the Coast Guard at 22, and it's part of the culture. Of the military.
Yep.
Yeah, I was in the cutter, and everybody like, oh, let's go out and party. I'm like, cool, man. I'm making friends, and it just became a habit. And then once I went offshore world, the stress increased, and for me, that was just. It was way to me to it would just make me chill out.
Yeah.
And it would make me not care about what was going on at work, why I had like a nice buzz. But then, when you sober up the next day, you got to deal with all these problems, and now they've compounded.
Yeah.
And it would just dig me this deeper hole. I'll go one step up, two steps down, one step, and it's just not good. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. And then again, on the fitness side, not drinking is fantastic because my energy levels are through the roof. Like, I worked out this morning. I feel like I want to go run right now. Right now. But I like feeling that way. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if I know a lot of people in this community who are, at least in the swimmer world, and I've met a few SF guys and SEALs again, who are kind of type A, competitive. It's in our culture, but I'm telling you, if you can put that bottle up, it like unleashes. Like, I feel like I've unlocked a new level of where I can go.
Yeah.
Now, that's why I started doing these videos. I was like, man, like, I'm feeling good. I feel a little more confident inside.
Yep.
My anxiety's down. Like, the alcohol was giving me anxiety, and so I'm like, 2025, I'm going to make it a great year, the best year yet. And I'm like, let me just do this and see what happens.
Yeah, brother.
And if it works, cool. If it doesn't, cool. But I'm going to be the best version of myself.
Yep. Yep. I love that. What a great message for this global audience. It's such an important aspect of learning who you are, is identifying those areas where you can still make incremental improvements. And when I talk a journey of wellness, the journey of wellness can start wherever you're at in this plateau, but it's incremental, and it's small changes that really make the biggest improvements overall that we can sustain. And maybe it's in nutrition, maybe it's in cutting out alcohol, maybe it's decreasing the stress around us. And I'm kind of in that process now with this job I have, where it's getting more and more complex. My TBI doesn't allow me to handle super complex situations and tasks. If I have 18 spreadsheets open on my computer, like, I don't freaking remember which one had which number where, and it just gets me going. And so now I've got to start looking at where I can focus on things that I'm best at doing, my gifts, my talents. And I'll talk to you a little bit about it once we finish the interview today. I've got an opportunity maybe for you, I think.
Sure.
But I love the concept of working in a team. Do you miss that? Do you miss that camaraderie that you had while you were in?
That is the thing I miss. That is the thing, because I still have, I have group texts with the guys that I worked and the gals that I worked with down in Miami, and all the swimmers that I still, have contact with, and that is the part I miss the most, is the people. I don't miss the job anymore. I don't. So, but the people I definitely miss. I've made some of the best friends. Because when you go through these types of events with other people, I feel like anytime it's physically demanding things, like, it's a bonding opportunity. And somehow, like, you're pushing the deck with somebody in there sweating right next to you, and it just, I don't know, it's bonding. For me. So I had those lifelong bonds. Oh, that's my daughter, sorry.
Yeah. You're good.
I know. Sorry. I live in RVs, so the kids are out there playing. Do you need some feed? Talk to mom, sweetie. Yeah. Sorry, Michael. Yeah, so for me, it's the lifelong bonds that I've formed these people. So again, I stay in touch with them. And but the job, I'm okay. I knew I needed to go, especially the last 2 years of my career. I was like, 20 couldn't come quick enough. Again, super thankful for the Coast Guard. Did so many good things for not only myself, my family, and the opportunities open, but I knew it was my time to go.
Yep.
Like, my heart wasn't in it as much, and I hate saying that because I'm like, gosh, Lee, I'm the type of guy, like, whatever I do, I'm going to give my absolute best. But I wasn't giving my best the last couple of years, and I knew it. And I'm like, the people around me deserve better. The Coast Guard, everybody, everybody, right?
Yep.
And I was like, my family deserved better. So I was like, it's time for me to take a step back, kind of figure out who I am. And that, again, I'm still in this process, but just again, stopping alcohol, doing these videos that I'm doing now, I feel like I'm finding a new version of myself, and it's a lot of fun, because some people, and I will say this too, some people when they're getting ready to retire get scared, and I was one of those. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, like, so for me, I had to find my purpose. I got grounded, right? I look at my family, like I have a wife, I have 3 kids, beautiful family. Gosh, I'm so fortunate. I'm like, I got the world at my fingertips.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, let's go out and just do something completely different, my wife and I, and let's see what happens, you know? And we're doing it, and I feel like we're in the best place in our marriage, our life. Individually, I feel like I'm the best with, you know, my physical fitness. Like, I'm like, this is cool. So I'm like, again, it's a positive trajectory. Like you said, you take little steps, but as long as the overall trajectory is going up. And exactly. And I feel like I'm doing that, but I've almost feel like I hit a new, I guess not parabolic, but it's going up, you know, and I'm like, this is cool. So I'm just having fun with it right now. And it's good. We're in a good place.
Yeah. Oh, I salute you, brother, and tell your wife that she's doing a great job too. I love watching the both of you guys get your exercise in. It's motivating and inspiring. You know, it's not easy to get to 20 plus years of marriage in today's society. There's so many voices and messages that talk about quitting and bailing and finding something younger and whatever, right? The messages that are all wrong. And my wife and I have done 20-something years of marriage ourselves, and it takes constant effort. And if you guys can find fitness as a way to bond you, and, you know, it creates a form of intimacy, right? That it's not the other intimacy, but that intimacy in a way that you guys unite in your common goals. I freaking love that stuff. That's the stuff that life is really made of and gives the most joy.
Agree. Yep, I think we are so intentional of how we. And another thing about this RV lifestyle we're doing, everything is intentional now. Like way more intentional. Like everything you do, like you just can't go to the store and buy stuff because you don't have like the RV is very small, right? It's not like a big house. So everything you do, when you eat dinner, we're close all to, like right through this door next to me are all my kids, their friends, my wife. So it's hard to even get a break. So you're around each other nonstop, but everything you have to do is intentional, right? And for me, it's been amazing. There's rough spots here and there, but overall, I'm like, this is like, I wish we would have done this longer, you know, or earlier. And so we've been doing it longer. But we implemented date night. We do it once a week, my wife and I, where it's called a weekly alignment plan. Mm-hmm. And we literally just go to a restaurant wherever we're at, and I bring up my computer and we go through this kind of itinerary of what we discuss every week, and it basically aligns, you know, us on the same page as the parents of this household and what we're doing for our kids and our goals. And we go over finances, we go over fitness, we call it freedom, you know. So we're like, hey, how do we, because we want to continue this lifestyle. So we're like, hey, what, you know, so we go over these things, we discuss it, and then we talk about, hey, did I annoy you last week? Or tell me something that annoyed you, and then tell me something positive. And you know, so, but it's just really, but it's cool. We just started at 2025 this year, so this is like all new. But I like it because, again, it's being intentional. And I'm like, man, I wish I would have been doing this years ago. Mm-hmm. You know, before I felt like we were sleepwalking. I was in the Coast Guard. I get my, you know, constant paycheck, and I was stressed out and just doing what everybody else is doing. It's just like
rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat, exactly. I was in the hamster wheel.
Yep.
Stressed out hamster wheel. Oh my gosh, I got to do this, got to do that. And now I'm like, I have so much freedom. I can kind of do whatever I want. So now we're living intentional, like, okay, we're doing this because we want to. We're not moving here because the Coast Guard, you know, said to go here. We're doing this because we want to. Here's the experience we're going to do for us and the kids. And again, I'm happy. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, in my family, we call that family council, and we have it every Sunday night, right before the start of the week, and we pull out our individual calendars, and the little kids, because I have 6 kids, the little kids will pull out their little book and write something in it, and, you know, and act like it's part of their agenda for the week. And we talk soccer schedules, piano, or whatever. I talk about interviews I have where I want the house quiet, you know. It's a chance to align. So I think that's a great step you guys are doing. Yeah, that's awesome.
I got to bring the kids in ours, like what you just said. So I think the next one, the wife and I have been talking, is we want to bring them in and then have them set goals as well, and we'll discuss them. How can we help them support? And but I like that you're already doing that, so that's awesome.
Well, I'll show you what I do with my family, and I'll try to bring it up to the camera here and see if nothing breaks. But I set my goals in 4 areas: physical, spiritual, emotional, or social, and intellectual. And and I have my kids set goals in those same categories, and each week as a family we'll sit together and we'll review our goals, or have one of them pull theirs out and say, hey, for this quarter, because we review them every 3 months or we redo them every 3 months, and say, hey, how are you doing? And you had a goal to get faster for soccer. Are you running? Are you doing a mile every day on the treadmill? Or are you doing your 20 push-ups before you go to sleep at night, or for their physical? Yeah, it's great to see them get involved and start thinking now about how do I get better intellectually? Is there something I need to learn? And my kids are like, oh, I want to know about why it rains. Great. I'll print you off some material, you read it in your own time, and you mark off your goal, and you say, now I know why we need moisture, right? Small steps.
That's cool. That's awesome. That's a great idea. So I think I'll do that probably next week with my kids, because I want to bring them in on the loop too as well, yeah.
Well, film it, put it as part of your content, encourage other people to do the same thing, because it brings the family together, and everybody's aligned on goals. And
yep, that's a good idea, though, film it as well, yeah.
Yeah, good content.
Yeah. Hey, again, I'm learning that we're learning this whole, content creator lifestyle too. So we're just kind of figuring out. My wife's much better than I am, but again, we're learning. We're having fun with it.
Does she have her own channel too?
So she does.
I haven't seen it.
It's ours. It's called Sinclair Adventures. Or Sinclair_Adventures on Instagram. We're Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok.
Okay, I'm gonna have to subscribe to you guys. Yeah.
Okay, and then mine is just Drew Sinclair 82.
Yeah.
So I'm Instagram,
yep,
Facebook, and also TikTok.
Okay.
So I'm not on YouTube, but I'm just doing more. Mine's more obviously geared towards fitness and training. Yep. So I just do an individual one.
Yep.
But then like today we call it Workout Wednesday for our Sinclair Adventures page. So I got to make a video actually after this. Make a video of my wife and I working out, and then she'll post that on our page.
Awesome.
I think she'll probably tag. Yeah. Awesome. So just to try to inspire and show you can still be active no matter what you're doing. And,
Yeah. Well, brother, I love the fact that you're doing this time period of discovery and finding freedom with your family. I don't think there's anything more important than that. And I encourage you to continue to build up your resiliency in the event that a tsunami of some sort hits you from some suppressed memories or trauma that you've experienced pre-military or even in the military, so that you're ready. And, you talk about this missing of camaraderie in the military, and well, this is your new camaraderie. Count me in, brother. We don't leave each other alone. We don't go too long without connecting, so that we always know we're never alone, and that's important.
I appreciate that. Yeah, even just like talking to you right here. I feel like I kind of know you, because I guess everybody in the military is, that's done some, I don't know, kind of crazy stuff. You can relate. It doesn't matter what branch you're from. And
yep.
Again, I got a guy who's in this RV community with me right here at the same park, and he's a retired Ranger, Army Ranger. Nice guy.
Yep.
And but I was never in the Army, but we connect and we're almost like the same people. It's really awesome.
Yep.
So it's like, and I like being able to bounce ideas and just talking about stuff like that, and talking to you right now. So it's very, very nice.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, brother, the last 2 minutes here, give some advice to my global audience for anybody who's struggling to get started on their fitness or mental health. What would you say?
Okay, fitness. Okay, I think they kind of go hand in hand. So I think if you get your fitness correct, it's going to mitigate or help your mental health. So a lot of times people will jump to, and I have experience doing this. I've been a former therapist, and they want to give you SSRI, so selective serotonin receptor inhibitors. And I'm not saying don't do them. I did them for 3 months. But I would say, is your diet square, sound first, and are you training? Are you doing some type of fitness? Doesn't have to be crazy intense running marathons, but do those first before you try to address the mental. Because if you do these first, I'm guarantee you they're going to help this right here. Because if you go to this part first, the mental, you're taking pills and you're down the farmer treadmill. I don't recommend that personally. I have no medication, so I am all about taking care of yourself. Lead yourself first, others will follow. So that's like one of my sayings I'd always tell the people that work around me or underneath me. And fitness for me is a non-negotiable. Mm-hmm. So I tell people, if you never worked out, that's okay. Doesn't matter if you're old, overweight, start moving, doing something. The body wants to move, right? Yep. It releases endorphins. When you break down your muscles in the gym or lifting weights, it's a little bit painful when you first start. But then your body releases those endorphins. And that's why when you get done working out, you're still in that kind of that high. Because the endorphins have been released by your body to mitigate that pain from tearing your muscles, from working out, running, or whatever, and you get that high. And it's such a good feeling. To me, it's the best feeling ever. And that helps depression, anything mental health. Like for me, I got diagnosed with severe depression, alcohol dependency disorder, ADHD, I had TBI, so traumatic brain injury incident. God, what else? Generalized anxiety. So I got diagnosed with all these kind of things. Yeah. And I will say, for me, the way I combat all that is working out. And it sounds simple, but I'm telling you, try it. So if you have not tried that, try that, and get your diet and fitness are, to me, the two pivotal things.
Yeah. And I second what you're saying, because it's worked for me too. All through my darkest moments, one thing that I kept constant, even if I couldn't feel anything else because I was so depressed, I still got my workouts in and with some friends at the same time, and it probably saved my life in so many ways.
Exactly. See? Yep. Because I've done, every time I do a run or workout, like, I'm always happy.
Yeah.
I can't not be sad when I'm working out. Like, I've gone into a workout sad, and then I know my wife will, like, go for a run or go hit the gym. And I go do it, and, like, it literally just takes my mind off it. Like, for me, if I actually don't do working out, if I don't work out, like, my idle mind wants to be depressed.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to do something, at least for me. That's how I'm wired. And I've realized that about myself. Like, I have to be doing something. Because if I just sit in my own thoughts sometimes, like, the idle hands are the hands of the devil. And I get anxiety. I get my own hardest critique on myself. Oh, my gosh, I should have done this. And I start tearing myself down inside.
Yep.
When I go for a run or go work out, I feel like I go to battle in my mind every time I train.
Yep.
Like, I talk to myself. Are you familiar with David Goggins?
Yep, of course.
Okay. So huge fan of him. I read his books. I love his sayings and stuff. And when I go train, like, I'm battling myself in my mind. I'm not trying to compete against somebody, but I'm battling myself. And I'm showing that depression is not going to control me, And I have family, but I have a good family network, good backing. And my history with my dad passing away from that stuff, like, I told myself, like, nothing's going to overcome me. Like, I'm in charge of how I feel.
Good.
I'm not going to let the depression say, you're depressed. Like, but training is what I do.
Yeah.
So training and a healthy diet.
Perfect. I love it. And I hope everybody's taken some notes today from Andrew's advice. He's living the life that most of us want to try to live, a place of freedom, a place of self-discovery, a place of fitness, increasing confidence, increasing closeness with our family. And I salute you for your efforts there, brother. And thanks very much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Michael.